So we'll, excuse me,
Use that gavel. Do it.
I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Planning Commission for April 16th at 2015. First order of business is discussion and possible action on March 26, 2015 meeting minutes. Is there any changes or additions?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is public discussion and possible action on the application for a conditional use permit. I thought we had a public hearing first. Okay, public hearing, I'll read the notice. Hereby given the City of Hudson Plan Commission will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, April 16th at 7 p.m. City Hall Chambers, 505 3rd Street, Hudson. Invite the public to comment in regard to the application submitted by OIC Youth Strategy Jennifer Nielsen for a conditional use permit to be used at the residence at 426 Oak Street, Wisconsin, for a facility for OIC youth, conduct youth ages 5 to 17, respite care, supportive home services, mentoring services, and small classes for meal preparations, group setting, gardening, etc. The request limits the maximum occupancy at one time to 8 people. OIC Youth Strategies currently has an office at 901 4th Street, Suite 107, Hudson, Wisconsin. So at this time, again, we will be not answering any questions on that tonight. It's for anyone that would like to comment or talk to the Planning Commission. Now is your chance. So if there's anyone here that would like to speak to the Planning Commission, now is your chance. Yes, ma'am. If you could come up and state your name and address.
Good evening. I'm Susan Halseth, and I live at 1011 5th Street. And I have some questions, and I've written them down if you'd like to have a copy of this.
That'd be great.
I have some questions, particularly about the use of the property. And I'm requesting that the commission consider how this might impact on the neighborhood. What is the present ownership, for example, of the property at 426 Oak Street? And is the sale of the property contingent upon this approval being given? Is there going to be a restriction on OIC establishment signage at 426 Oak Street? In other words, do they have private signage that they will put up on their property? Is the parking is limited to 4 cars in the driveway? Where will the clients be dropped off and picked up? That is a very high-use corner, as you probably all know, just about year-round, but particularly in the good weather. And where will the clients' caretakers park? Do the owners have permission to go ahead and make physical changes to the property that are needed to accommodate future respite care and group teaching activities without City of Hudson approval, for example, building permits? What is the ratio of staff to clients? Well, the mentoring relationships and life skills programs are being conducted. By law, this target population, as I understood from reading the application, the ages involved are students who would be in the public school during public school hours. What are the hours that OIC Youth Strategies will be serving clients at 426, both on school days and vacation days? And what is the time period for which this conditional use permit is in place? Will the permit be transferable if, for example, the property is sold? So it's sold, first of all, to the new people, OIC people, and then, for example, they decide it isn't appropriate for them for some reason. Will this conditional use permit continue should they sell it again? My concern is once this property becomes non-residential, it will not revert back to residential ever. It will change the composition of the neighborhood. So I will give you those two.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the Plan Commission? You can just give them to Mr. Darnold. Thank you. I'll ask again, is there anyone else that would like to address the council on this issue? If not, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move that we close the public hearing on this subject.
Is there a second?
Yeah.
Is it possible to answer the question?
Yes,
Yes.
you'll be given opportunity.
Yes, certainly.
Well, let's
Yeah.
take action on the motion and
Yep.
we'll go into consideration.
Okay. We have to close the public hearing. Is there any other?
Well, I have a question. So is she going to be able to answer it if we close
Absolutely,
it?
yeah.
Okay,
After.
I'm just making sure that,
Absolutely.
okay.
Okay. Is all in favor of closing the session?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Here, possible action on application for a conditional use permit for 426 Oak Street. Mr. Darnold?
Jennifer Nilsson with OIC Youth is proposing the residence at 426 to be utilized for youth activities such as supportive housing services, mentoring services, small classes for meal preparations, so forth. Ms. Nilsson's here tonight. I believe she's wants to give an explanation of her services, and we can address some of the questions that were just raised during the public hearing. So Ms. Nilsson, if you'd like to come up to the lectern and discuss your project, what it is. The Plan Commission may have questions for you, and we can kind of go down the list that was presented and address those issues also. Thank you.
Okay, so just go ahead.
Yes, please.
Okay. So I'm Jenny Nielsen. I am the owner of OICU Strategies. The first thing I wanted to say right off the bat is right now we have 3 office spaces at 901 4th Street, and I intend to keep those. I'm actually for sure keeping 2 of them, and we may get rid of 1, but that's just because some of the things that we utilize that it's a very large one, I'm hopeful to utilize the house for. The ratio for the kids we work with is typically 1-on-1. That's what we're known for. If we ever were to do small groups, it would be no more than 4. We brought copies of what I submitted for an application to them of what our future plans are too. So there's 2 similar, sorry, I'm really nervous, I'm just gonna be honest. So, St. Croix County, they contract with me to help youth. I'm a licensed school counselor, but outside the school. There's 2 similar businesses that they contract with through a program called Youth Community Support Services, so different than Child Protective Services. And that's Positive Alternatives and also Bridge for Youth. Bridge for Youth typically works with children with more where you can see their physical disabilities more than not. Not always. They have a smaller population for mental disabilities too. And then Positive Alternatives, they have a group home, they offer mentoring skills, they also use respite care. Their ratios can be higher, and they're in a residential setting. But that is, my intent is to keep the ratios down. We really connect with our youth in a one-on-one fashion to develop that relationship and also to give them that second home feeling. So my offices, a lot of our kiddos, more so our teenagers, I have at least 3 of them that they think of it as a second home often, away from their home. Signage, I have no intention of putting sign out. I want this when they come there, I want them to feel like it's a home. So I don't have intention to do any signage at all. It's publicly known, my address is 901 4th Street, so I'm honest about that. I don't have any intention of putting OICU strategies out front or on the side. Parking, so 901 4th Street, as you know, or hopefully you know, has a decent-sized parking lot. It's by the church, and it's within walking distance. If it ever would come to a time where we need more than 4 parking stalls, all of us are more than willing to park there and walk, because a lot of times we'll be utilizing that office for tutoring. I have no intention to use the house for tutoring, and our dominant population for tutoring is 4-2, so kindergarten to 6th grade, and then the life skills, which is more of what I'm wanting to do with the house, is more 6th grade to senior age. My hours of operation, a lot of the kiddos I work with, there are school day hours, sometimes holidays. They surprise me in positive ways all the time, so I can't really predict what the hours are, but my hours of operation are typically 8 to 8. So even though my phone, my husband knows, is on all the time. I know Denny has made it clear to me how long the permit is. I believe, did you say it renews?
Well, typically, if it's approved, you'd be for 1 year with a 1-year review. If everything is good, the planning commission reconsider and make a recommendation for extension. And typically, then it might be a 3-year, and after that, typically, if we, go 3 or 4 years, there's no issues, then it'd be good for a continued purpose. That's an incentive for you to be compliant, first of all, but secondly, be a good neighbor to the neighborhood.
Absolutely. And I mean, if these kids, I want them to have a homey feel, so it's all about the neighbors. So, we have no intention to resell this as commercial. If we were to resell it, Andy and myself, it would be residential. So I would have no intention to resell it as business. If I'm gonna someday sell OICU strategies, that's a whole separate piece. This is actually, there's a rental piece, it's separated in a way, if that makes sense. I think I answered all the questions.
Do you own the property, Jennifer?
Not yet. Yes, it is contingent on this.
Okay. I think that was one of the questions that was
Yeah,
asked.
you're right.
Anyone have any questions for her? Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Everything I do is from my heart. That's why I think this is why it's working. I'm a licensed school counselor outside the school. I am that way for a reason, to help our schools, our community, but also our families. As our schools grow so fast, our educators have so much pressure, and I experienced that with my training, that I seen such a need from the outside. I have a really good relationship with a lot of Hudson educators. So my intent is not for OICU strategies to grow big and have multiple locations. My intent is to do it from my heart, and the youth lead me to where that goes. So and then the respite is in the future. I haven't done the research yet. Everything I do by the book. So there's a lot of research I'd need to do to get that going. And it would not be more than 2 youth in a weekend. And it's youth so it's not a group home setting, but it's youth that it's giving maybe the parents a break for the weekend. So.
That is not your initial plan, is it? Or is that what you're planning initially?
No, that's
Okay.
not the initial
All right.
plan. Mm-mm.
I asked a question in regard to that, if the city would consider approving a permit, if we did not include respite care at first, and you wanted to make respite care a consideration in the future, and we would require you to come back and get approval. Is that something that would be a concern to you?
It's not a concern, no. I'm fine with following the rules, so.
Very clear.
So just a couple questions. So what are the hours that the house at 426 will be utilized?
You know, typical would be 8 to 8.
Okay, so initially though, with no respite, so no overnight initially. So what's
Right.
the staff ratio that you would have in the house with the number of students and the number of staff?
It would never be more than 4 to 1 staff
So one
So-
staff member to 4 youth.
at the most. And right now, we do one-on-one, period. So if there's 4 children, there'd be 4 staff. And then the maximum would be 8 in a house at a time.
So in addition to so does the conformance to ADA need to happen even if it's not respite care?
Yes.
Okay.
And
So-
we've started getting quotes on ramps and stuff. So we would not be in operation until that ramp, which would be done on the back of the house, so it does not hurt the cosmetic in the front.
So back where the porch is?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
then would they come in by the garages there and then go around?
Yeah, so, yeah.
So clarification on the question of occupancy, are you saying that the total occupancy is both your clients and your counselors
Yes.
total?
Yeah, yep.
Do you intend to have that as your primary residence as well then, or is that just a secondary residence for the business?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Other questions? Yes, Frank?
Where do your clients come from? Are they from the county?
They're from the whole county.
Where?
They're from the whole county, St. Croix County. But honestly, I mean, the dominant population that pays, parents come to me and pay out of pocket is from all over. But those children, most of them are tutoring, and that would be at 401 4th or 901 4th Street,
Okay.
along with parent meetings.
Okay. Did you have a question?
Oh, no, I just had a
Okay.
comment and questions.
Mary
around it.
Claire?
So where do you get your referrals from again? So parents come,
So St. Croix County, it's Youth Community Support Services, it's children across the economic status. So it could be somebody that's on a lower, like they're poor, but it also can be somebody that's extremely wealthy. The Youth Community Support Service through St. Croix County, it's not Child Protective Services. It's a pretty awesome program, actually, and St. Croix County is very fortunate with our funding for this program. So a lot of my referrals, there's about 9 social workers that refer to me. And then in addition, we have parents call in, yeah.
so what is, I have another question. So the training of your staff, I mean, 4 to 1 ratio seems a little high to me, but what is the training of your staff?
Well,
What is
right.
their background?
Their background, well, I have a mastered school psychologist, at least a 4-year degree. Anybody has sociology. One of the gentlemen that he just finished his master's to be a therapist. So the training, I have high expectations for my staff, so.
Okay, does anyone have any, yes?
Just on the clarification of, so you're not, your clients are not directed from the Hudson School District, they're from a county program?
Yes, but they're part of the Hudson School District.
Well, they could be, but they could not, might not also be too,
Right,
correct?
correct.
Okay.
The dominant population right now is Hudson.
Okay.
And to go back to the staff question, I have everybody but 2 people here. So they're here to support as I put them on the spot in the back, so.
I just want to say that the county in general, in my opinion, is seriously lacking in these services. Just from firsthand experience with my own personal situation. And I understand the concerns of the neighborhood, but I think that Jennifer, can I finish? I think that Jennifer is being very clear on the fact that she will go through the city processes as need be, and I do think it's important for youth to be able to learn how to transition on their own. And there's either the situations that are out there, you either have to have extreme issues to get the help, or you're gonna have to find somewhere that's not within a distance for your child to stay at home with you to get the help. Arizona, Green Bay. I think we have a strong need for this in our community, and I think we are always very cautious of helping our seniors in the community with what we've built, which is great, but we've, in a way, unfortunately, unbeknownst to ourselves, have let our youth slip through the cracks a little. So I'd like to see this project go forward. I think it's a good project, and I do think that you will respect the integrity of the neighborhood. It's important, so.
Okay, thank you. You had a question, ma'am? You need to come up to the mic. You need to come up to the mic, please, and give us your name and address. Thank you.
Thanks. My name is Heidi Christopherson. I live with my mom at the same address, Dr. Susan Halseth. I used to be a probation officer in Colorado, Arizona, and most recently in Pierce County. I've also run a group home in St. Paul, and right now I work in inpatient psych at Abbott Northwestern. So I'm very acquainted with this population as well. I don't question that this young woman has the best of intentions and that what she's offering is important. My question is, does it have to be in this house? I'm aware that there is, on the other side of my mother, a looming foreclosure. I know that my mom is contemplating selling her house, and I know that there's someone across the street from us who is also considering selling. So my fear is that you are going to fundamentally change the character of the neighborhood without having really given it a whole lot of thought. I don't have any problem with what she does at all. I'm just worried about the impact that it's going to have on the neighborhood and that it will fundamentally change. There will be no going back after this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Certainly, if you come up to the mic and give us your name and address, please.
I'm Sandy Eddy. I live at 1119 4th Street. Well, so we came because we felt like we had gotten the letter and wanted some more information. Didn't know a lot about it, so this has been very good. My main question is that, why this house in that spot being as, it looks like the target client or young person is going to be 6th grade through senior high. And in the neighborhood, there are 3 grade schools. There's, there's St. Pat's, there's Trinity, and then there's also the grade school on Oak there. Then on the other side, other corner at, I'm nervous, sorry, at, on the corner of 5th and Oak, which is across the street from the house, is the Cinder Lot, which is where lots of kids play ball and where there's a lot of ball games going on in that area. And then also, I'm just asking the question about age, whether it's really the best place. I agree, it's a need, but it's a neighborhood that's there's a lot of young kids. There's a lot of young kids in the summertime in the evenings that play at the school playground there, and I'm just wondering if you want older kids hanging out where it's an area where lots of families come with their kids and and play in the playground in the park, and there's 3 grade schools, and I'm just wondering. So my question is, why that spot? Because it seems like an odd choice for something that's going to be geared towards 6th graders through senior high. Maybe the other thing is I'm not clear on, are people going to be sleeping there, like staying overnight? Like, is anyone going to live in the house after 8 p.m.? Is anyone in the house during the night? Or I guess I'm not really clear on the usage. So if you could clarify that.
Well, you asked 2 questions, if I can, before you go on. Your first question in regards to the issue of children that may be in this program. When Ms. Nilsson brought this idea to me at the beginning, I said, in no way would the city approve this to be a location where children can be there without a guidance counselor or an adult in their attendance. There will not be a location upon which children just go to and can be there by themselves. The second question in regards to, can you repeat?
Just-
No, I'm,
Overnight.
Yeah, well,
I-
just is anyone
Again-
going to be living in the house? Because I think she said they weren't going to live there.
no, they're not gonna live there. It'll be basically for counseling and so forth. The comment is, the only reason they'd be there at night would be for respite care. And my comment is that they're not ready for respite care to start with. That would not be part of the approval if the city wants to approve it. And they would have to come back and get that re-reviewed by the city for respite care in the future if they want to move into that consideration.
And respite care, could you define
Respite care
that?
is
Yeah.
essentially where the parents allow the children to stay with somebody so that the parents actually can get away and have
Okay.
free time on themselves and not have to take care of that particular child. My
Okay.
wife and I do respite care.
Okay. Okay.
There would be somebody there monitoring the children at
Yeah.
all times if it
Yep,
was.
absolutely. And that would be, if the city that would be a requirement of getting the permit. That's a condition. So if they're in violation of that, we have the right to call it in, go for a public hearing process, and potentially pull the permit if they're not living up to the conditions that the city would put if, again, we would decide to move ahead.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you. Is there anyone else that has a comment? Mary?
I just wanted to add to one other thing, and I appreciate your concerns for what you do. Being a social worker myself in the past, I understand the concerns, but that's fine. It's for everyone else to hear is fine too. But these aren't, my understanding from what I'm reading, and Jennifer, you can correct me if I'm wrong, these children are already in part of the school system. They're already exposed to our children they're not separated off. This is not something where you have to worry about your kid playing baseball down the street or riding their bike in the street. They're good kids who need some extra help. And I think it shouldn't, I think being the neighborhood, we have parks all around the town. We have kids. This is a neighborhood city. This is not a community where we don't have some sort of neighborhood. I believe that this is a blending thing, helping children to be able to learn how to use life skills that they otherwise don't have afforded to them. So this is not a negative thing for your community. I understand the concern of maybe, resale value and stuff and all that, but this is not a negative thing. This is not juvenile delinquents who are breaking into homes and causing issues. These are kids that are in our everyday lives who you wouldn't even know there's something going on with them. This is not a problem house. So it's very important to distinguish the difference between that and a group home of kids who have come out of possible juvenile, detention. This is not the same thing. There's a huge difference.
Okay,
So,
yes, Mary Claire?
I think we do just have to look at the context of the neighborhood and the location, though. With the school and the park and all of those things area, I do think the neighborhood is a concern that we need to look at because it will change the context of the neighborhood.
Okay,
Well, just let me respond to that.
And nobody will know. Nobody will know.
Bridge for Hudson Youth has a very similar facility down on Second Street. There's been no significant change in that neighborhood. If, there's a question, could issuing a permit of this type compound other similar facilities in that neighborhood? The city would take everyone one by one. We'd start looking, if additional applications come in, we'd look at those on individual basis, what those impacts may be, what the type of facility. Is it an adult family home? Is it a daycare? Is it this? You gotta take those on an individual basis and not necessarily make the assumption that because a permit would be issued at this location, it's gonna become a problem. I generally, my opinion is, I think this would be a positive for the overall community, and we certainly be closely monitored, and they'd be held to the conditions of a permit if it would be issued. Again, Planning Commission has control of making the recommendation, so.
okay. Pat?
Time for a motion?
Absolutely.
Move to approve, along with the conditions that Denny has already, or stipulations Denny's already made of having the 8 staff and resident combination, that they're not open for respite care at this time. They'll come back as a separate issue that, and they'll do the, bring everything up to ADA compliant in order to do it, and that'd be a 1 year.
Okay.
They'd come back and get approval beyond that.
Is there a second?
Well, just make that, one is that, one of the conditions was if, that they'd have, any client that's on the parcel has to be attended. It can't be on the property unattended.
I agree.
Is that okay?
Yep, that's okay.
Okay with the
Yep,
second?
absolutely.
Discussion. Any more, yes, sir.
When a building goes to that purpose, does then other building codes apply to that? In other words, does it have to be brought up to certain codes, or can it just remain a 1920s house or whatever vintage that is? I'm curious about
Well,
that. How does that work?
The primary issue, David Gray and I inspected the property because we wanted to make Mrs. Nilsson, if a permit may be issued, what the potential cost of changing access, the Americans with Disabilities access would be the primary consideration. It looks like they can do that. Again, there's accessibility routes that'd be required. So basically, they have to make that house very similar to if they were converting it to an office building where they have to meet commercial codes. So the access is the primary issue.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries.
That recommendation will go to the Common Council on May 4th.
Okay. Discussion and possible action of final development plans for Hudson Dog Care, 2300 Jack Bro Drive, 7,500 square foot building, Resource Logistics, Dan Lodge.
Generally, this is the final review, as we 2 weeks ago, concept. The only issue that the staff has in regards to this is that there'd be the commercial entrance up to the property line and a valley gutter in the street. Landscaping plans submitted. I asked for revisions, make sure that the plans are compliant with City of Hudson requirements, and so it's the plans have come back. They made the modifications staff recommended before, recommend approval of the final development plans for Hudson Dog Care at the St. Croix Business Park. Yes, Fred.
One question now, is this building being built then to be leased to this dog care business or whatever it is? And it could they go out of there in 2 years and it could become something else? I mean, I'm just curious what the setup there is like.
Mr. Ryan Shirley's here. You can answer the question. Basically, the interior of the building is tailored towards, but I think yes. Could it be converted? I think absolutely yes.
Yes. Yes, the dog care facility is leased. That building will be owned by Dan Lodge and then leased out to the for that dog care facility. But yeah, eventually they could potentially leave that location.
Okay. Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I've moved to approve with any stipulations that Denny has tagged to that, if there are any. If there are none,
Just changes on the concrete apron requirement, valley, and storm drainage on the street, valley gutter in the
with those
gutter
stipulations.
section.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Excuse me, isn't this the one that talks about the dog run too, though?
Pardon?
The dog run, should that be included in that one, or do I have it confused?
What the discussion was with the dog run was landscaping, and they addressed that issue in the submittal of the landscape
Okay,
plans.
great.
Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Discussion and possible action on concept development plans, Hampton Inn and Suites, 83 units, 2610 Pearson Drive, south of Pearson Drive and west of Center Drive, American Construction Services. Denny?
Both issues 5 and 6, they're developments on adjacent parcels, so perhaps the discussion may spill over with discussion on both. Mr. Craig Sandalcow, or
Very close.
close enough?
Sat on the couch, to say it.
And Alan Catchpool are here to discuss the project. Alan, did you have boards that you wanted to, we'll turn it over to them, let them, again, this is concept. I did make a slight error on my staff comment. The original proposal on this was 2008, not 2005. So I apologize for that. Again, this project was proposed before, approved by the city of Hudson. Due to the time period, our municipal statutes require it to be re-reviewed and approved by the city if it goes more than a year after approval is about construction being initiated.
So it just didn't move, it was approved, but just didn't move forward?
Pardon?
It was approved, but just didn't move forward?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they decided not to move to build the project at that time.
At that time, okay, I got it.
The foundation's poured, right?
Foundation was poured.
Okay.
Sorry?
Okay.
Alan, you want to?
Absolutely. So the first item, what we're looking at is the Hampton Inn and Suites Hotel here. Like I said, Craig can answer any operations, but you know, to spill in a little bit, the next one is also the retail here. This is the existing Perkins. Like I said, currently the footings are in for the hotel. Just kind of, you know, with the economy and everything, went away for a little bit. Now they're back, ready to build. Footprint staying exactly the same. As you can see, it's a 4-story, 83 units.
How big is the Comfort Suites 4-story as well? Next to it?
Yes.
Just to get a idea in my brain.
Yep. So everything would have proposed, we're roughly, I know the numbers are a little different, we're tweaking property lines still, but parking will be adequate. Everything will have a cross parking easement, so, you know, retail can flip-flop, same with Perkins if there's overfill, so everything will have cross parking easements.
Can you explain the change of access on Center Drive?
Yep. Currently, right now, there's a driveway that comes up here. You know, from Perkins, you would drive through, and it lines up with this. What we're proposing is eliminating that and putting a new one here that would line up with the daycare across. This kind of gives us a better movement all the way through. This is also a new cut here for the hotel. And then this will be a new one for the retail. So this kind of just aligns that, and with the slope and everything here, it works out nicer to have trash kind of away from the drive and all of that.
And Perkins was okay with that change? I mean, they've been talked to or had an opportunity to respond?
And we actually own that property as well.
Well, all right then.
Nothing like making it easy.
The owners don't have any,
Well, do you have any issues with that? Okay, good. And this doesn't matter with our plan, and I get that, but I'm just curious. Are you having a meeting room in the hotel?
Yes.
How many will it seat?
There are 2 meeting rooms, a conference room that holds 8 to 10, and then a meeting room that holds comfortably up to about 35 or 40.
Okay, thank you.
Just,
Again, we're in concept plans.
Respect, if you're going to discuss things, go up to the lectern so the TV cameras and microphones can pick up your voice.
Again, we will get better plans or more plans later on. It's just a concept plan, whether anybody has any issues with that, so we're not.
absolutely, and we're waiting for city comment. So
Yep.
we haven't got any comments back. We will comply, understanding that's full condition.
Because I haven't memorized the code, I see the building height is 57 feet.
60 is the max.
60 is the max, thank you.
Questions?
That 57-foot height doesn't go all the way to this.
I know that.
To the roof line, it goes up to a parapet,
I
so
know.
some of that's just parapet wall.
Looks nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Moved to-
just one comment from the staff review. Staff issues issues have been brought up are relatively minor. Basically, the most significant issue that we're reviewing right now is storm drainage, adequacy of down system, retention ponds, so forth. We feel it's good. Also, Some of the DNR requirements for infiltration changed since this plan was originally approved, at least for the hotel back in 2008. So we're making sure that will be reviewed, but all those issues will be addressed prior to them coming back on final development plan review.
I move to approve.
I'll second it.
All right. Any more discussion?
This is just for the Radisson, or for, I'm sorry.
Is that coming in
You're in
too?
trouble.
Where's that going? Is there an, just for my informational purposes, is there another Hampton Inn in town?
No.
Okay. I feel-
Hamptons are tied together with Hiltons. They're in that family.
Yeah, I know,
group.
I just couldn't remember. I
And
thought there was a
they're pretty
double.
nice places. I travel a lot. Hamptons are.
No, they're good
are pretty
places.
nice places.
I don't have it. Good.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the discussion and possible action on concept development plans for Banterra number Lot 10, retail 10,900 square foot building, 1,028 Pearson Drive, east and west of Pearson Drive, Banterra Holdings LLC.
The representatives from Banterra Holdings is here tonight, so I at least turn the floor over to you. Again, this discussion in regards to this retail access here. The staff had some concerns on this driveway, particularly if there was a menu board here that cars would have to stack too far back and maybe be a congestion issue. They've moved that up so that can be addressed. But overall, the general plans are acceptable. We're trying to work out a few details. I think the only, again, go back to storm drainage, again, on infiltration, is this issue. This will be analyzed as the total parcel. And then secondly, there was relatively minor issue by the water utility at the crossing where stormwater main and water line main, that the water line be insulated to prevent freeze-ups. So overall, is very minor issues from a conceptual standpoint. Dan?
Like Danny said, we've got planning for a drive-through on the north end and the south end. The south end drive-through we're thinking would be a lower use, not a Starbucks type, because we've already got that over there, so it wouldn't have the traffic stacking like you would in some of those type of tenant spaces. And we would add a curb cut here for this drive-through for easier access to get out, so you wouldn't have to drive all the way around the building. Like we said in the previous one, we'd add this access here, remove this access, extend this parking just for overall flow for the entire lot for everybody to share, because this will be higher use in one time of the day than this. And so, like we've done on the other ones, just kind of balancing the tenants that would go into these buildings. The elevations would match what we've done with the rest of the development. We'd have the same brick, same colored ephes and stucco, aluminum windows around. We'd have our gas and electric meters hidden behind some gates so you wouldn't see those driving by. So the front of it is all glass, brick, stone, and the sides would be too. The back of it would be just delivery doors, so we kind of minimized what we're doing there, put a lot more punch in the front side of it. Right now we're planning on, I think we have 7 different tenants, which could change and probably will change down the road as I've experienced in the past, but just kind of filling in the last lot that's available and finishing out the development.
Questions?
I'm sorry, sorry.
Go ahead, Mary Claire. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, you already have them all leased out? Is that what you just said?
No, not right
Oh,
now.
I'm sorry, I thought you said that, okay.
This building will continue to go. The rest of
Oh, I see what
the
you're
rest
saying,
of the
okay.
buildings in the
Thank you.
development are full.
My question is, there's some slope there, and then with the hotel being upslope from that, this building is below it. Are the buildings at different elevations, and then what will that do to the parking and, call it the lot line between the hotel and this thing, I guess? Is there retaining walls in there? Is it that steep? I mean, I don't know the particulars, but I do know there's slope there.
Why don't you, here's the man with the answer.
No, let's go back to the site plan.
I didn't look at the elevation, excuse me.
Right now, there's gonna be retaining walls behind the hotel, but right now, this would just all get sloped towards the front. We wouldn't have any retaining walls between the lots.
Okay.
It would just slope.
So basically what you're saying is from the hotel west, it's flat.
No, it drops off. I can't remember what the elevation drop is from the back to the front of the lot. It's, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 feet. Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Finished floor elevation differences are probably 3 feet.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So
Between the
it's mi-
hotels, higher.
It's minor then?
Yeah, it
Correct.
does slope, but not so much that it's an issue.
Okay.
Retail will match pretty much Perkins' finished floor elevation, and then the hotel is about 3 feet higher,
Thank you.
approximately.
Where will the front of the building be?
The front of it will be on this side.
So the loading area is gonna face toward the hotel?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? What's your pleasure?
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
We're talking about a bunch of other subjects. We're seeing a hotel come in now, potentially, and then another commercial development, water.
These areas have been accommodated.
They're already included in
All
it, so
our
this
sewer
isn't part of
capacity-
it?
Correct. It's all been accommodated.
Okay, that's all set.
That was taken care of in 2008.
Well, you see the new ones and you forget.
I'm
and-
being sarcastic.
Well, no, had to ask.
What's your pleasure?
Move for
Move to
approval.
approve, yeah.
Okay,
Go ahead,
is there a
take it.
second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion, questions? Again, preliminary.
Concept?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good reading.
Went great with my lunch.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action of an application for rezoning of the property known as the Hudson Golf Club, located north of Cooley Road and west of Carmichael Road, from R1, one-family residential district, to a PRD planned residential district, and B2 general business district, and to amend the 2009 City of Hudson Comprehensive Plan to change the land use designations from residential or recreational commercial to 1 and 2 family residential, medium density residential, and general commercial, Hanson Brothers LLC. Before we get into this, I just want a clarification. There's still a restrictive covenant on this property, and that has nothing to do with our rezoning tonight. There has been no agreement to release that by the city council at this point, so this is a separate issue from the zoning. So we don't want to talk about whether or not that's not the issue here tonight. So just want to make that clear to everyone at the table. So you can ask that question, but it's not relevant to our discussion tonight. Thank you. Danny?
At the last meeting, there was some discussion on a traffic analysis that be performed. That analysis was submitted to the city late Tuesday. I provided copies. Mr. John Rass is here tonight to address that issue. Also, there's representatives from Hanson Brothers 12 is here tonight. Also, one of the questions that was brought up was whether there's going to be any consideration of lowering the elevation of the land behind the existing commercial property on Cooler Road. There's, on your tables tonight, there's an illustration of showing how that might be considered in the future. So at this time, maybe we would turn the floor over to Mr. John Rask of Hanshagen Homes and a representation from Hanson Brothers to address the traffic analysis and also at least the cross-section on the proposed potential grading between what would be proposed for commercial development between existing commercial property on Cooley and Carmichael Road, and then potential residential development to the north and west of that. John?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. Just to address the items that were brought up at the last meeting, we did go back and prepare a traffic study. It was actually, as you recall, underway when we were here last. We had to take a little longer to complete it because of the request to look at the intersection with Cooley Road. But to start with the primary intersection into the site at Carmichael, the location of this intersection, as you recall, is consistent with the WSDOT study for the Carmichael interchange improvements. They identified a new signalized intersection at the location of the current golf course entrance that then would align with the future frontage road that goes to the east. The traffic study we did contemplated the proposed residential development, and then just like the concept plan itself, we don't have specific users at this time, so we've put in some generic building areas and then had to make some assumptions for the traffic study. And what we did there is identified uses that were a little more intense in terms of their trip generation, things like a grocery store, drugstore, gas convenience. So we erred on the high side in order to understand really what can this site accommodate for traffic and how does that impact not only the Carmichael intersection, but the Cooley intersection. To be conservative, once again, what the traffic engineer did was assume there was only 2 access points, not knowing what the timing was on this or the configuration of that, where it ties in, the extension of a future road up to Vine, nor was the intersection or connection down to Ward Road considered in terms of distribution of the trips. So when they did their analysis, they took the land uses from the residential, the commercial, and then figured all that traffic would go to one of those 2 intersections. And what the traffic study concluded is that both those intersections can accommodate the traffic given the local road network. Again, this one is consistent with what WSDOT had identified, so there are no plans changed or contemplated as part of that in terms of the turn lane configurations and the size of that intersection. This does need to be signalized. They projected the traffic out similar to what WSDOT did through the year 2035, and with the signalized intersection there, continues to function at an adequate level of service through 2035. Cooley, this connection to Cooley was also analyzed simply from a signal analysis standpoint to see if it met warrants for a signal. Again, they use the information provided by the Wisconsin DOT in terms of the traffic counts on Cooley, which are about 8,900 trips a day currently, and then projected what those turning movements would be based on the projected traffic from the site, and found that a signal is not warranted at this time at the intersection, nor was it warranted as you go out to the 2035 time horizon. So that's an overview of that traffic study. One of the things, and hopefully not Angela has a colored version, but there was a question last time about the grades. So we just pulled a cross section through the site with the residential, our homes that are on that top cul-de-sac of future building at a 30-foot height, and then where Target sits here. So you basically go from a 900 or an 890 in those walkout homes to an 880 to about an 870. So it's really just dropping down kind of in a consistent fashion there. I think one of the things, it is a large site, so when you think about 20 or 30 feet of elevation change, that seems significant when you look at it in terms of, in relation to the size of it, in terms of the horizontal distance here. You'll see that the vertical distance isn't as maybe as what you would envision as you just kind of look at a 2-dimensional plan. one of the features of the site, as you recall, was the ability to establish some buffers between the future residential and the commercial. And this is actually a ravine that's there today that contains a fair number of trees, so we were preserving that. You know, and again, that ravine seems kind of extreme or steep when you're out there, but when you put it in perspective with the site, it's a little notch there, but it drops about 20 feet there. So as this lowers, it doesn't impact the other side of the site. And really, the commercial site itself, there is a larger, flatter area here, and then this just steps down with the natural topography, which is why there's a break in or a change in kind of the size and location of those buildings. Again, we don't have specific users, so what's here is simply to illustrate how the site could develop, what a configuration of buildings and transportation and access, and how those things relate to the site plan. I think one of the comments that were brought up last time that we've looked at least conceptually, is maybe making this the primary road here, as well as into here's, and then teeing the residential street back into that as a way to discourage through traffic through the neighborhood. So I think those, I think addressed a couple of items that the commission requested additional information on from the last meeting, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You ever considered berming on the commercial side so that, again, one of the concerns I think we talked about was coming into town would be the first thing, and not necessarily would be that attractive to see a great big box store standing on top of the hill there. Have you considered a berm in that to kind of screen that from the freeway section?
Yeah, maybe I'll have, I don't know if, Angela, if you have, I'm not sure what the grades are doing in here.
Yep.
Actually, there is a berm that exists there. Right now, there is the berm that exists right here as it is, and we have not talked with Target on grading on their property anyways. So that berm, or a portion of that berm, might, end up remaining anyways. And so, yeah, there's definitely, if you can kind of picture, there's a large berm right there right now, and this is much lower, kind of almost a valley on the backside there. So, especially in this area, the closest to Target, that berm naturally exists right now.
You know the can you give us a rough idea of the elevation changes? Or?
Well, basically, it's about 20 feet of elevation changes from where Target floor is now to the top of that berm.
But I mean, on the other side of it, I guess what I'm saying is that coming from the interstate, we don't want the monster building on the top.
Yep, exactly.
So there's no, I shouldn't say there's no berm. It will be seen readily from the highway, unless there's something there that goes, because the elevation change, and I don't know it exactly, but I've been there a few times, is not that different. I mean,
right on the backside, you could probably have about 10 feet, 8 to 10 feet lower in this area. Okay. So you would see maybe halfway up a building if you kept this berm.
As it is.
And if you had, let's say, a similar, Target's 26 roughly feet tall, so if you had that on the backside, you might see the top half of it.
Okay. Unless we were to build up that berm a little higher, possibly.
Correct.
Or because we did discuss the possibility, or asked the question of whether or not that the height up on top, whether there were plans to lower that.
And we looked at that as a possibility. Two things to consider there is, again, if we wanted to lower this to the equal, it gets much better near the grocery store, Family Fresh, but at this area, if we were to bring this whole grade down to similar, we would be grading on their property, or we'd need permission to grade on their property. And then second of all of these homes would then sit quite a ways above, and they'd be looking down basically on the roofs of whatever these businesses would be. And it was kind of the thought to have this just a step up, kind of have the steps up so it can buffer the residential from, from the freeway noise. Okay. And have, it stepped up, so there was, and that was just a consideration.
Along with Alan's question about the berm and all that, is there any intent to tie, say, target the strip with targets on commercial property to, let's call it the upper level? Is there any going to be movement between those two? Or are they going to be totally separated by the
Well,
way?
they don't own any, they'd have to get permission from
We'd
them.
have to get permission. Yeah, there is, you know, kind of a common entrance driveway between Family Fresh and Target. They have a cross agreement or a cross easement, but we are not part of that. So that would be a negotiation with those property owners at some time.
Could it happen?
And that's what we'd have to get permission to see if it could happen. I don't know that answer.
Pat,
Down
you have
like where
Pat-
you showed one
okay.
of the possible accesses?
No.
Actually, right here.
Oh, down
Yeah,
further,
on the
okay.
west side of Family Fresh.
On the back.
So the cross-section elevation that you gave us is just purely to show where the basement level of a house would be and where the floor of Target is. But in reality, there's a big hill in here that's gonna remain. That's what you're saying.
Well,
But it's
that's
not
what he's
illustrated that
asking.
way.
Yep.
Right, that's what
Okay.
he's, what the mayor's asking is, we were looking at, could we transition slowly and take out that berm? And that's where the mayor's saying, maybe keep that berm. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that berm is not shown on that, just, that was it. But it could.
Be nice to see those other elevations
Yep.
But if,
in there.
going back to what the mayor had also asked, if the buildings on top could be 45 feet, right, based on existing code?
Is that right, Dan? Is it 45?
Under zoning code, it could be as high as 60 feet.
Okay, so if you took a 10-foot berm off, you got a lot, that doesn't cover half.
Yeah.
I mean, you still got a big chunk of building.
Right, if you had,
Yep.
Well, then it's visible to the residential too. I mean, it's from both sides. It'll look like a huge hill.
One of the things that we talked about at the last meeting is we are working together to lay out and master plan this site. And we have an agreement amongst ourselves that the Hansons would restrict the height of these buildings to 45 feet. So, and we've offered that as to incorporate that either into a developer's agreement or some other restriction on the property that would limit the height of that. And I think if you look at, just looking at an average height tree, we feel that we've got a good opportunity to buffer that. We've also talked with the Hansons about placement of loading docks and how those get screened, so taking it beyond just the visual break, but operationally, how does that site lay out and work and function so that it can be compatible with the adjacent residential. So that's one of the opportunities, I think, to be able to do this together. As you recall, when we had residential next to Target, you're kind of stuck with what's there. Here we've got the opportunity to establish those buffers in the appropriate place.
I just think it's a real bitter pill to try and swallow that Hanson's gonna put on restrictive covenants that are gonna stick, since it was supposed to be a golf course for 10 years.
One of the,
You know, I mean,
sure, one of the.
that's real hard to swallow.
One of the opportunities I talked to Mr. Darnold about today is we could put in a developer's agreement that would be recorded against the property that would restrict the use of the property in that fashion if you weren't. We never envisioned it being a private covenant like the golf course covenant was a private covenant between the golf club and Mr. Hanson. This would have been with the city, so it's a little different covenant than what was previously on the property.
Can we go back to the residential for a second? Okay, so talk to us again about, it still says City Park. You want to donate that to us, or we don't want it? Or at least I don't want it.
Yeah,
Parks doesn't want it.
Huh?
Parks aren't interested in it from the general discussion we've had regarding it.
We may not want it, I should say.
No, I don't want it.
Okay.
I've expressed that already.
Yeah, we understood that. We also understood
Public
at
Works
this
doesn't
level,
want
we were talking about zoning in the land uses, so we understand there's plat issues and park dedication issues. I think what we feel, we've never been interested in seeing this be an active park. What we'd like to do is see trail corridors through there that we think would benefit the public, so there might be something in between a city park and private open space. There's no intent to develop it, so it's gonna be left open under any scenario. If the public would like access through it as a trail corridor, we're certainly open to that as well.
Okay.
The
Questions?
commercial that's in the front, that's all the stuff we've pre-approved, right? Those lots, those are the pre-approved lots for the Hansons? Or we're?
Yes.
Those three.
Those three up there.
There's three.
So the ones on the side are now, was this I missed that plan commission meeting when you guys were back, because I was sick. So was that new? I mean, this is new to me, I guess
Yes.
I should say. So I guess I'm concerned about that as well. Especially just from dealing with what I've dealt with in years past. Denny's aware, Alan's aware, Fred was on at the time, I believe, with, behind Red Cedar Canyon, when we had dealt with the commercial area over there. So now here, these residents or the city or what have you is gonna be facing yet another possible, issue. I mean, I understand that when you move in behind an existing building, you know what's there, but when you're starting to move in behind a commercial area, I mean, if we're gonna allow, if this is gonna stay, I would like to see the city at the very least be very stringent, so we don't have the same issue with Heritage Greens as to what will be allowed. And I know we can work on that, Denny, and what have you, but I just need to make that vocal, because
Okay,
I
thank
just
you.
foresee that.
Yes, sir.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there another avenue of process that we could go down where it ties everything together in the entire project for give and take and planning purposes, rather than the way that we're going after it now? Is two separate, or as?
There's two zonings being requested. One's the planned residential, which requires a conditional use, just like Red Cedar Canyon, Stone Pine, and Heritage Greens. All those were approved through negotiations, discussions, City of Hudson, developer on development standards. The commercial part of this is proposing a pure B2 general business district. I expressed concerns due to the height and visibility of the commercial area. Perhaps it'd be much better to have a planned commercial district. City again goes in, negotiates the commercial development versus going to this zoning.
Yeah, that's why I was asking if that wouldn't be a better vehicle that would allow all these issues to
Again,
be
if
coordinated and brought together.
if that's the type of land use that you want in that particular area.
As opposed to it being multifamily or.
It's residential right now, right?
Yeah.
Correct? Is it residential?
Yeah, I've been trying to emphasize that traffic volumes will go up with this commercial, almost 5 times. And
Well, as I look at the numbers,
you have to understand, right, you also have to understand, they put 2 land uses in their proposed land uses that make up 65% of the total traffic generation being proposed. If those 2 were taken out, your volumes go down substantially. So, if you have a big box where they're calling it a discount grocery facility, I mean, that accounts for half of the total trip generation for the entire development, including residential and the commercial. Just that one land use itself. So
therein lies my nature of my question.
And I guess my
Isn't there
concern.
a better way to do it?
I guess my concern too is it's all sinking in my head with all this, not having a couple weeks to think about it, is that I thought the concern we had was the density, and now I just feel like we went from the residential being less dense, but now we're in a commercial situation, which to me is worse than having a dense residential.
Yeah.
So.
Frank?
Well, we were headed down the direction originally of a planned residential development in there. And then the commercial was thrown in later as a change.
And I think that might have been, the Hans Hagens folks said,
Yeah.
we sure
At least we can
wanna
go forward with this.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you want to make the most of your money, we get that, you're investing into the land, and how are you able to do it? But we're at a situation at the corner of Carmichael and Cooley again, and I get that there's traffic studies, and I just feel like we've all been duped by studies in the past, and I want to be cautious as to how we
because part of my concern too is that that's not just vehicular traffic coming in there. If you put commercial up on the hill, now you got tractor trailer traffic coming in there too.
Maybe just to refresh your memory on, we talked about this, so probably a couple meetings ago, but really what was the impetus behind the change from all residential to including commercial came from us. We were out there on the site back in February, standing in this area, and it was traffic noise. You can hear 94. I'm guessing haven't done a number of noise studies, you're probably 60 decibels or higher. Not desirable. You also have some view corridors down here where you weren't simply going to be able to buffer the road, and some of that with road noise, it's out of sight, out of mind. If people don't see it, they don't hear it as much. So we stood out there and just figured there was no way to do that. We do have a natural break here that provides that buffer, so now our residential is farther away. Our concern with where we had the residential through here before is, even though we were trying to burn it, we were stuck really with what was there. We're closer to it. So somewhere on this site, there's going to be a transition from commercial to residential at some future date, and we thought it was best to bring this in. I think Mr. Hanson would have preferred to sell it all to us for residential. We just didn't see it as the appropriate use. We didn't see it as the right fit for the neighborhood. We're not trying to get as many lots as we can on here. We're just trying to get lots that have that are in the type of neighborhood that we build, and we think this offers the best opportunity to do that.
Well, all due respect, John, we have a very respectful relationship. I think that one of the things that I guess is frustrating me a little is that, at least for me, the reason why I chose to give Hans Hagen a look is because I'd rather see residential to commercial go into the golf course area for the residents that were on Golfview Circle and back there. And now we're just putting in residential and then putting a commercial in front of these residents. So to me, it's, we're just pushing the problem onto the new development versus, trying to eliminate the problem from the older home developments. So to me, it just seems like we're just creating exactly what we were trying to avoid by adding commercial in front of residential.
I personally don't see the commercial fitting myself either.
Right, and I just wanted to also say that the unfortunate thing with Hudson, well, I don't know if it's unfortunate, it's not, I'm used to it, but 94 splits down the middle of our city. So pretty much wherever you are, you're hearing 94. And if you're not hearing 94, you're hearing a train. Something you're hearing in Hudson. So I don't know if a retail buffer or commercial buffer is what I'd want to see to protect from 94, especially since that's what we were trying to protect from the older developments in the neighborhood, so.
So, if you have any more questions, so, Planning Commission, do you have any concerns about the residential right here, as far as what's been proposed for the residential portion? From a zoning issue, or?
Of just
Of this
purely
plan.
zoning it, not necessarily that site plan.
The residential section of the
site plan.
Right.
But not the internal layout of how the subdivision is being laid out, just the overall concept of that bare piece of ground can now be residential.
PRD.
Well, it is residential, it's just
I
we
mean,
want
but-
it to be a denser residential than what it currently is.
Yeah.
In other words, you're not buying
We're
this
not buying- I don't-
buying this layout, it could be another layout.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is what's being proposed to us.
Please understand, I've said it 20 times already.
It's confusing.
Yeah.
The zoning does not adopt the master plan. The zoning only puts it in place that now they can bring back a master plan to us, the city negotiated. We don't have to accept this specific plan. We can negotiate changes to it to address a variety of issues. But then, and that would be required to go to a public hearing for a conditional use permit, just like Red Cedar Canyon was required to do, like Heritage Greens was required to do, Stone Pine was required to do. That same process would be utilized. But yes, this would, if you go to PRD, typically they end up a little bit higher density, but there's generally trade-offs to get that, and that's open space is increased, and there's other, hopefully amenities that are given consideration to, as a trade-off to giving some additional densities or flexibility to the design standard.
Right. And in following that up then, that's leaving the commercial portion as an issue set aside as a separate one? Or do you want the motion to include the entire parcel, just remaining residential? That's what I'm searching for, some clarity as to which way you would like us to.
Well, maybe that ought to be discussed by the plan commission. I'd like to have a total recommendation. You mean you're gonna zone the PRD and leave the commercial that at least been proposed for commercial development as single-family residential, because that's what the underlying zoning currently is? Or, I mean, there's varieties. I guess what I like to try to get out tonight is kind of a direction from the plan commission. I can take it back, I can, massage your thoughts and recommendations, bring back some consideration as far as comparisons, and then I don't think we'll be able to meet between now and May 7th, which is our next plan commission meeting, because I know one plan commission member may be out of town for a while. So, and I can massage that when we bring back a little more detailed information, and at that time, but if you got concerns on the commercial zoning, if that's not gonna be in place, I'd like to try to get your thoughts and then apply that to how the city may, and John had referred to potential restrictive covenants or private development agreement on the commercial. I have not had an opportunity to visit with our city attorney on.
So you're not looking for anything formal out of us to come out of here tonight?
Well, that's up to you, but I'd prefer not.
Well, that's where I'm going. I think we're too premature to make that decision.
Too many loose ends.
Yeah, and
again,
if I had to take a vote today, it would be leave it all residential.
You're speaking for yourself.
For myself, yeah. If I had to take a vote today, I would say I would vote leave it all residential, because I haven't seen a commercial that makes sense.
But,
Can I,
go ahead.
Just a quick question. So what are people's thoughts then? If you don't agree with the commercial there, what would you put there? You'd keep it all residential?
I haven't seen a commercial that I would vote for over residential.
I think what Mr. Darnold, you can say it yourself, but would like to be able to work with that a little bit and see if there's some things.
If they can come up with a better solution to the commercial than what's being shown to us now, or enter into a planned commercial development with the city on it, then that would warrant looking at changing that zoning. What is my thinking?
What do you need to free up the planning that you need to do?
Yeah.
Would it be that we do the PRD and we leave the commercial as residential, which it is right now?
No, not necessarily. I mean, if you're not gonna go to the B2 general business and it's gonna stay R1 one family residential, they'd have to come back and reapply under a PCD, a planned commercial district, and that'd be given consideration. So
that's what I would prefer to see as an individual planning commission member.
I guess I don't want to see commercial if that's what we were trying to avoid the first time around, so, but.
No commercial at all?
I would not like to see commercial there because I feel like that's what our frustration was with the golf course went down in the first place. We didn't know what could go in there, and I want to protect the integrity of the area and also keep the traffic levels as low as possible, so.
But do you think residential would fit where the proposed commercial is? I mean, right behind.
I think multifamily could go there. I think other solutions could be done to it rather than being another big box set up on a tier up there.
So what's your
plan? Or, they could always keep some green space.
No.
It's always an option.
Well, they have those wall barriers. There's all kinds of things that can be done. I mean, you see them all over Minnesota along the interstates. So, I mean, why not there?
It's not as easy as you think, though.
I understand that, but there's ways to do it, is what I'm trying to say.
So what's your Pat, were you gonna?
No, I won't make a motion, and if we're just giving advice to Denny to what we'd like to see,
Carry discussion over till May 7th.
Yeah.
Is that clear as mud to you?
Yeah. So what additional information are we looking for between now and May 7th?
I guess in terms of what the desire is on the commercial, because that's obviously a significant change.
Right.
But we've had commercial at the last couple of meetings, so I guess what additional information are we looking for in order to make a decision on this?
I would like, go
Well,
ahead.
as a question, commercial's totally out regardless of whatever? I mean, is that the feeling of the plan commission, or is there some reasonable concession that they may be able to make? Lowering the density of the commercial, reducing
Yeah.
traffic considerations that might
work.
give positive consideration by the plan commission.
Yeah. Might.
Yep. Well, I think it has a.
Yeah, I mean, it has the potential of doing that with those issues solved. A better chance than it does now.
I don't think a general B2 would ever fly.
Well, I think the introduction of any big box store, as we were talking about the grocery store, Jenny was talking about traffic generation, that's the bomb in the whole thing. I mean, you get something big in the middle of a commercial like that, and that ruins the character of the whole thing. Or it changes the character of it, but it doesn't ruin it. So I guess my question would be, can you do something else? Not have some big monster in the middle of this thing, have it more like downtown Hudson, have it more smaller type units that don't cause some of the issues that a big grocery store just, that's an
Pantera
example.
just showed that they're going in
Right.
across the road.
Right, something on that order, but I'm
And I
not,
just think we have to be really clear on what is it that we're looking for the next meeting. Because I'm not clear what we're looking for.
Yeah, neither am I, because I mean, I guess I know what I don't want to see commercial, but if, I have no, I mean, just to say, you know, that we lessen the intensity of the commercial, like, to see a hotel here is obviously not something I want to see on these plans. But to say we're gonna have the same situation like Heritage Greens per se, where there are gonna be areas, family-friendly, walk-to commercial restaurants, like an ice cream shop and this and that.
Right.
Let's be real, I mean, once it's zoned, it's anything that falls under those categories, how we can make it very restrictive. You know, I understand that, but you open it up, you can open up for anything, so let's just
Would I suggest
be
that?
careful.
Yeah, why don't I suggest that we let Denny work on it and bring something back, and then we can take a look at it?
Yeah.
Is that, are you guys okay with that, or do you feel like that's too, Mary Claire, you're looking at me
Well, no,
like-
I'm just wondering what he's gonna work on.
Well, we come back with something.
Let me
Yep.
try to reiterate what I'm hearing.
Yep.
One is you do have a concern on the commercial development.
Yep.
You have a concern on the bulk of buildings, size of buildings, intensity of traffic generation. You know, is there a commercial plan that can try to address to reduce those impacts? And that's why, you know, when this idea of commercial came in, at that elevation, it could either be the city's worst nightmare, or if it's well done, it could be a very positive development. But, you know, what is the final product? And you're not gonna get into all that detail, but, you know, what are the mitigations that we can potentially apply to make it a commercial area that could fit into the neighborhood and to the community?
that's what we're asking,
Yeah.
I think, just what you said,
Do it.
please.
Make it happen.
And I have no problem with it, I just want to caution everyone to remember that things can change. So once it's even in the commercial realm, you know, things can change with future commissions and future councils, so.
Yep. Mary Claire, is that okay? Frank, you okay with that?
Yes.
All right. Go ahead, Frank, you.
Well, I guess, and we'll see whether something can come up with that, but in general, I guess I agree with some of the comments, just general, you know, commercial out there, unless there's something that you can figure out. I think when we originally talked about this and we were going to recommend development, everybody was pretty sold on the PRD idea. And then the fly in the ointment was the commercial.
Okay,
And it's still a fly in the ointment.
all right. Anything else? Anything for future upcoming meetings or any other informational purposes?
Not at this time.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned, thank you.
I don't ever want to fly in my ointment. Fly in
So
my
Denny, next meeting,